one knew how much risk was in that system. Bilateral, bespoke, non-reported transactions. No one knew how much risk was in that system. Repackaged and re-leveraged again and again and again and again. No one knew how much risk was in that system. Bilateral, bespoke, non-reported transactions. No one knew how much risk was in that system. Repackaged and re-leveraged again and again and again and again and again and again again and again and again again and again. Repackaged and re-leveraged again and again again and again and again again and again.
That's a scam!
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math. Being comfortable with risk is very important.
GM, the dollar is a melting face here, as you can see from the chart on screen. Pretty much looks like a honeypot at this point as it just keeps on ticking up. Green candle after green candle. And what we're seeing is a bit of a sell-off across the traditional finance board right about now, but Bitcoin is holding still at this moment in time. So fingers crossed that will remain. But USD is very much in demand here. So in today's video, let's jump through some of the information and news hitting the headlines today. Let's keep you guys updated and well informed on these markets. Let's jump in. So as the DXY continues with its strength, we're seeing a continued sell-off here from the SPX opening down roughly 1% today, and the NASDAQ as well, roughly down 1% today after roughly just 1.5 hours trading as we film at this point. DXY currently at 106.99, some spikes to the highs all the way up to 107.339 here, but Bitcoin is seemingly not doing too bad, 27,400. And from Crown's analysis earlier this morning, 27,000 is a key pivot point somewhere around here that needs to really hold, otherwise this is going to look rather bearish indeed, with a bit of a spike up, deviation, close back inside. Not the best looking chart at that point, but still we are around $400 above that level right now. But 27k going to be a key turning point for the market here, so hopefully that does hold. Let's have a little look across CoinGecko. What is moving, what is up, what is down. Gala Games, after being absolutely bashed over the previous weeks. Talk of founders suing each other and all sorts of shenanigans. We've got Rollbit up big, more on that in just a moment. Solana continues with its assault higher, and Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision up 25% over the last 7 days. And the account claiming to be Satoshi Nakamoto is, of course, Craig Wright over on Twitter. Not sure why that is ticked up as a result of that, but that does seem like par for the course for crypto. A crazy dude pretends to be someone, his coin therefore pumps. Losers row here, we have the likes of Thorchain Rune, Sui, Optimism, Apecoin, eCash, Curve and Arbitrum giving back some of the gains made over the previous few days. Now yesterday saw a host of ETH futures go live, but it seems the feedback was resounding from yesterday. The amount of interest in this, institutional wise, was rather low. Let's listen into this clip from Eric Portunas and hear about that lack of demand.
And today in the history of ETFs, we have a multitude of Ether and Ether plus Bitcoin futures ETFs launching all on the same day. Remember when BitO launched? That was 2 years ago. Those Bitcoin futures, only one launched, and it got like all the volume basically. So the SEC was like, well, we don't want to do that anymore. Let's have them all out to have fair play. So here's the ones all in the market trading today. There's their volume. I kind of sorted it by the most volume as of noon. Total of $2 million trading. Not that much.
So the first Bitcoin futures that went live, you can see from the data up here, roughly 1.9 mil of ETH futures, but on day one for BTC, $1 billion was done. So obviously a lot less demand here for Ether. One thing to note though, obviously if you do have just one funnel and one outlet of an ETF, like BitO back here, there's almost like a scarcity towards where can we get our hands on said ETF. Whereas you can see for the ETH ETF, a ton of them did open up at the same time. So maybe that does have less of a FOMO impact on institutions, as look, we can get exposure from all these various sources, therefore we don't need to FOMO into the market on the very first day of the product coming out. But nonetheless, 1.9 mil, that was obviously quite early doors yesterday in terms of the amount of time that was trading for, but that is not a lot of interest whatsoever. There's probably people on crypto Twitter doing that kind of volume on exchanges. So ETH did spike up to over 1740 yesterday, but then it started to really come back down. Open interest was getting up there, people leveraging long into the fact there was this ETH futures coming out. They come out, a little bit disappointing, and then we have the price coming down, and it did actually nuke some of the open interest. So as Byzantine General posted, the OI got nuked, potentially a local bottom here, in his opinion, around 1654 ETH. Let's have a little look at the current standings. ETH still, around 1650 right about now. Then additional ETH news here from Eric. Justin, Grayscale has filed a 19B4 to convert their 5 billion ETH private trust ETH-E into an ETF. So that would be a spot ETF. So we're starting to see that the cogs are turning here. ETH futures just went live, and now they're after a spot ETF apparently from Grayscale here. So things are definitely heating up for the crypto landscape right about now. And when you think about the bull run, there's just so many of these huge factors that will come into play. You will have institutional demand for crypto assets, and hopefully these spot ETFs do get approved. And whilst these aren't really moving the needle right now, in the future, when prices are ticking up and FOMO is in the air, everyone feels FOMO. It's a human emotion. Institutions are just the same as us, except they have a shit ton of money. Shit's going to get crazy at some point in 2024. Then we have an update on stablecoins here from Altcoin Psycho. This is something I do look at on the regular. He says this: stablecoin TVL has increased 5 billion in the past week, giving some legitimacy to the rally, but it needs to be a sharper rise for him to be convinced. A flat TVL equals PVP market, rising TVL equals fresh money. So looking at the red line here, the chart is pretty much flat. So this is actually showing that the total market cap of stables is pretty much on an even kilter. But if you go to the blue line, the actual TVL, it has started to go up, especially over the last few weeks here, suggesting a bit more risk taking in the market. People leveraging up, maybe taking out stable coins against crypto collateral and then playing the market. So we're not seeing massive drainage like we were throughout the start of this year and the back end of last year. So the silver lining, we're not seeing a sharp decline in these metrics, which means it is purely down only markets. Maybe we're seeing this kind of bottoming process where we're going to get some inflows here and there, and hopefully it becomes a little bit less PVP. And it kind of does feel like that at this moment in time. Not too much on-chain cheating happening as much as I was seeing over the last month. So long may this trend continue. Update on Kuji here, tweeted this morning. GM, the TVL to price divergence does continue, but for how much longer? And here we have the lovely little QR code getting you to Sonar if you so wish. Crypto Harry also pointing out some Kuji stats here. Market cap $82 million. FDV is currently $83 million. Around 4.6% of tokens currently inaccessible. 6.2% are unmigrated. So these are people who have left the industry, most likely blown up during the Terra days. And 52% of all tokens are staked. Team have a great track record of shipping. We have Orca, Fin, Ghost, Bow, and USK. Other things to note, he says here, total value locked is performing very well, up only during this bear market, and fees from all apps accrue to Kuji stakers. So unlike some like vanity metrics where you see people pumping TVL for no rhyme nor reason apart from let's just get the numbers up, well, with Kujira and stakers actually receiving all the fees, if TVL does go up, simply it means more yield going to the stakers, and thus it should increase the value of the Kuji tokens as a result of that. And also he's pointing out here, seeing other teams build on Kujira, such as Manta DAO, who are building liquidity through protocol-owned liquidity and doing trade routing through multiple order books. So how long will this bad boy be under $1? I do wonder, since they're just huge divergences between what has been built. Think back to here, summer 2022, we just had Orca. Everything's been built since then. We've got the USK stablecoin out. We're seeing TVL go through the roof, but price is in this kind of malaise, slowly grinding sideways. It isn't going down, which is obviously a positive, but it is a little bit shocking that the price is not a lot higher. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that Cosmos more broadly dislike Kujira. I mean, it's got to be pretty hard to build whilst the ecosystem you live within gives you zero props, actively shuns you, and never has a single good word to say about you either. So I guess it is down to us as independent individuals to point out that Kujira is a bad boy chain, and this thing goes to double digits in my humble opinion during the bull. Not financial advice. Then we have an update here on Rollbit. So Crypto Condom posted this earlier, showing you some of the emojis that have been added to the RLB Twitter account. This was for Jewel Arena. Sportsbook update was this one, and now there's a chain, obviously something relating to on-chain. And the suggestion here is that they will be taking the RLB burns and actually doing the buyback and burns directly on a chain itself, which will help for a lot of things, including legitimacy, that the revenues are genuine. It's also been pointed out by others on Discord that if they actually did the buys directly on chain, they would have had better price execution than what they've done through the centralized Rollbit platform itself. This person points out 160,000 additional Rollbit would have been bought and burned, which would equate to over 1 million tokens annually. The theory behind this is that if RLB is directly bought back and burned on chain, there therefore is the direct evidence everyone needs to see that this is not a fugazi, they're not pulling the wool over our eyes, and thus this should increase its price point as people can see revenue is real and the buybacks and burns are genuinely happening. As Lucky from Rollbit did post earlier, more buys and burns on-chain fireworks are coming soon. 10,000 holders just being celebrated. If you can see the daily chart here on RLB, it's ticked up nicely from the bottom of around 10 cents here after the previous announcements of the buyback and burns. 20 cents, 50% retrace, pretty standard for crypto, now up around 40% to 14 cents today. Now, finishing up here, we have some major news coming from Camp SBF. He is going on trial. Today started the actual trial procedures. He wasn't actually taken to the stand or anything, but they've started to release some 60-minute interviews here with the author of the SBF FTX book. And the book is actually coming out in the next month or so. So the author, Mr. Lewis here, talking about how SBF was trying to bribe Trump not to run for presidency to the tune of $5 billion. Let's listen into that.
This revelation that Sam had looked into paying Donald Trump not to run.
That only shocks you if you don't know Sam. Sam's thinking we could pay Donald Trump not to run for president. Like, how much would it take?
Did he get an answer?
So he did get an answer. He was floated. There was a number that was kicking around, and the number that was kicking around when I was talking to Sam about this was $5 billion. Sam was not sure that number came directly from Trump.
And if anyone wants to pay me $5 billion, I'll happily never run for anything the rest of my life. So what we're going to see is we're going to have this SBF season come yet again because he's going to be on trial. They're going to uncover all sorts of stuff, some absolute shenanigans. I'm sure there's a lot of things that will come out of the woodwork that are going to be pretty hairy and most likely be quite bearish for the industry in terms of what they've got away with. So over the next few weeks, I'm sure we're going to see tons of SBF-based headlines. Probably going to cover some of the funny ones on here, but do let me know if it gets a bit too much and we will steer away from the content. But if there are laughs to be had, I'm definitely going to get my fill. So leaving off here, Bitcoin is at 27,420 for the memes. I hope you have a good day. See you in the next one. Peace.